Tonight, all eyes on Parliament Hill.
Ms. Wilson-Raybould is going to be able to share her perspective.
She's telling her side tomorrow. Will her truth help or hurt the Liberals?
They started yelling racist stuff.
A Quebec hockey player taunted by racist slurs from the stands. How should fans be held accountable?
I was literally just being silenced by the court system and by police.
And she survived a violent sexual assault and a traumatizing trial. So was coming forward worth it? This is The National.
What will they say and what will the fallout be? Tonight, Ottawa and Washington are bracing as two of the biggest political stories come to a head tomorrow. Former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould and former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen will both sit down before public committees and start talking. One, about the alleged pressure from Justin Trudeau's office to save SNC-Lavalin from criminal prosecution. The other, reportedly, about alleged criminal behavior by Donald Trump while he was in office. Both are expected to be revealing and significant. Now, we'll start on Parliament Hill, where it seemed Wilson-Raybould got her wish to break her silence. But tonight, there's a catch. David Cochran explains.
It's important that people get an opportunity to testify.
The Prime Minister says she can speak freely.
As we said, waiving privilege, waiving cabinet confidentiality is something that we had to take very seriously, but I'm pleased that Ms. Wilson-Raybould is going to be able to share her perspective.
And the Liberals almost seem relieved.
It's just important that she speak and that all of the mystery goes. This is important for all of us to get on with our work.
The truth will come out and Canadians can judge as to exactly what happened.
Her testimony will be the most significant event in this story since the Globe and Mail first reported that she was pressured to intervene in the SNC-Lavalin file. To this point, only Canada's top civil servant has given an expansive, on-the-record account of what happened, insisting the government did nothing wrong in speaking to the former Attorney General.
So I can tell you with complete assurance that my view of those conversations is that they were within the boundaries of what's lawful and appropriate.
Through it all, Wilson-Raybould stayed silent.
Privilege and confidentiality are not mine to waive, and I hope that I have the opportunity to speak my truth.
So last night, a cabinet order waiving cabinet confidence and solicitor-client privilege to allow Wilson-Raybould to speak that truth. This morning, the Justice Committee agreed to her request for a 30-minute opening statement.
I think, just like all Canadians and all committee members, we're pleased to hear her take on things.
With that, the speculation shifts from will she be able to speak to what will she finally say.
I think obviously her testimony is pivotal.
I want to know what was it that caused her to lose confidence in her cabinet solidarity and resign? Because that's a big step.
Look, I heard what Jody said earlier in the cabinet room, and I certainly heard what the clerk said at the committee. And my view is that nothing has been done that's untoward in this case. It's entirely appropriate, but Jody gets a chance to say her piece, and that's entirely appropriate too.
Okay, so David, Jody Wilson-Raybould will get a chance to say her piece tomorrow, but tonight she has concerns.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. She sent a letter to the Justice Committee confirming she will appear tomorrow, but raising concerns as to what she can say due to the limitations in that cabinet waiver that was issued last night. And here's what she says in her letter. She calls it a step in the right direction, but says it falls short of what is required. And her reasoning is that it's because the waiver is limited to her time as Attorney General. It does not free her to speak freely about her time as Minister of Veterans Affairs or since her resignation from Cabinet. So it really stops her from talking about anything that's happened since around the mid-part of January, including her presentation to Cabinet last week. And what she says in her letter is that will restrict her from speaking about the following: topics that some members of the committee have explored with other witnesses and about which there have been public statements by others. So she's going to speak, Andrew, but clearly she's got some concerns.
Right. So I guess the obvious question, though, is what this all means for her testimony tomorrow.
Well, it's a problem for the government because the government said last night that this historic waiver that they gave her lets her speak freely on this issue. But before she even says a word, this letter that she sent to committee tells everybody up front that there are still limits, and it undermines that credibility. So she has stated there are limitations, so anything she says, the opposition will be able to say, we still don't know the full story because a gag order is still at least partially in place. Now, I've also just spoken to the Prime Minister's office about this letter. They say the core issue in this entire controversy is whether Jody Wilson-Raybould was pressured while she was Attorney General with direct responsibility for the SNC-Lavalin prosecution, and they feel that this waiver tonight is broad enough for her to deal with that issue properly.
Okay, it all starts tomorrow, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time. David Cochran in our Parliamentary Bureau, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's turn to Washington now, and another highly anticipated witness whose testimony could be damaging. For years, Michael Cohen was Donald Trump's right-hand man, his personal lawyer and fixer. Tomorrow, he's expected to publicly accuse the U.S. president of criminal behavior. Question is, can he be believed? In May, he's set to start a 3-year prison sentence, in part for lying to Congress. But as Keith Bogue shows us, he seems sure Americans will want to hear him out.
First of all, I want to thank you all for sticking around and waiting for me.
Michael Cohen spent 10 hours testifying privately to the Senate Intelligence Committee today. Tomorrow, he goes public.
And I look forward to tomorrow, to being able to, in my voice, to tell the American people my story, and I'm going to let the American people decide exactly who's telling the truth.
Apparently, his testimony today was compelling.
I said it may be the most important thing I'm involved in my public life in the Senate, and nothing I've heard today dissuades me from that view.
How are you?
Cohen once said he'd take a bullet for Donald Trump, but since his legal troubles began last year, he's been tossing Trump under the presidential limousine every chance he could.
I should not be the only one taking responsibility.
He's maybe best known for his role in secretly funneling hush money from Trump to 2 women who say they had affairs with him. But then he blew the cover on that story.
He was trying to hide what you were doing, correct?
Correct.
And he knew it was wrong?
Of course.
Cohen will be asked about that in his testimony tomorrow, and much more about his decade-long role as Trump's fixer.
The American people deserve to know whether Donald Trump has been functioning as the President of the United States of America or as the equivalent of an organized crime boss. Michael Cohen can shed some light on that very important question.
The White House was out with a statement early to discredit Cohen. Sarah Huckabee Sanders said it's laughable that anyone would take a convicted liar like Cohen at his word, and pathetic to see him given yet another opportunity to spread his lies. Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, a zealous Trump supporter, tweeted this afternoon, "Hey, Michael Cohen, do your wife and father-in-law know about your girlfriends? Maybe tonight would be a good time for that chat. I wonder if she'll remain faithful when you're in prison. She's about to learn a lot." And that might cause ethical problems for the congressman. At the very least, it underlines the question, what do people have to fear from Michael Cohen? And tomorrow, maybe we'll see Andrew.
And what exactly will we see, Keith? I mean, what more should we expect?
Well, he'll likely get more questions about the hush money payments to women and whether the 2 we know about are the only ones or whether there are more. But he'll also get questions about whether he was directed by Trump to commit crimes and whether he knows of crimes that Trump has committed.
But, I mean, how serious is the credibility issue? I mean, it's not an exaggeration. He's a convicted liar.
Yeah, that's a fact, and it's very damaging to him as a witness. But one way to mitigate that is to have corroborating evidence to support what he's saying. And we've been told to expect he will have some form of documentary evidence to back up at least some of what he has to say.
And what about Russia? I mean, does Cohen have knowledge about Trump's ties to Russia and what happened during the election?
Yeah, he does. He knows, for instance, the details of the Trump Tower Moscow development that Trump was trying to get off the ground during the election. But Cohen won't be able to answer those questions on Russia publicly because all that's still under investigation.
Okay. Keith Bogue in Washington, thanks so much. Those Russia questions are what Special Counsel Robert Mueller is investigating. And Adrian, we could soon have that report. American officials have said it's almost done.
And Andrew, it's a pretty safe bet the president will be staying up late to watch that. Of course, Trump himself is half a world away for his second sit-down with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, this time in Vietnam's capital. So it's already Wednesday in Hanoi, the first day of the two-day summit. The focus, as it was in Singapore last summer, is on North Korea's nuclear weapons, scrapping them in exchange for easing harsh U.S. sanctions. But with no hard demands on the table, it's really unclear how far they will get. Our Asia correspondent, Sasha Petrusik, is watching all of this closely from Beijing. So, Sasha, what is different this time?
Well, Adrian, first of all, these two men now know each other. They've established a personal relationship, which Donald Trump is putting a lot of faith into. They've exchanged what he calls love letters over the last few months. There is also a lot of pressure on them, though, to come up with something concrete, that it's not just a vague statement like last time. So when they get together for dinner tonight, their first big get-together, they will have to actually start talking about something that is concrete steps toward a solution. Otherwise, this will be dismissed as just another photo op.
Okay, so I think everyone accepts that there are some unknowns that will play out, but also that there might be some optimism, it seems, about another long-standing issue in the region, that's formally ending the war.
That's right. You know, it's been more than 60 years. You might think it's about time that the Korean War ended. There hasn't been actual conflict for quite some time. But that, too, is a very tricky question in this region. South Korea, in particular, is worried about this because if, in fact, the war is formally ended, a piece of paper is signed, and there's no more fighting across the border, no more hostility, then North Korea is expected to insist that the Americans pull out their troops and all of their other equipment from South Korea. Because after all, why do they need to be there if there's no war between the two countries? South Korea is worried about that, and that has actually split a lot of opinion in that country. So it's not as simple. In fact, nothing is quite as simple, and there aren't really any assurances that this meeting will come up with even a signature on a piece of paper ending a 60-year-old war.
Okay, let's see what happens. Sasha, thanks for this.
My pleasure, Adrian.
Now, old war aside, the most pressing concern, obviously, is preventing a nuclear conflict. North Korea has not conducted a single nuclear test in well over a year. President Trump has and will continue to say that's a success. Indeed, after the first summit, Trump tweeted, "There is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea." But is he right? Is the North Korea threat over? Last year's Singapore summit ended with vague niceties, which worries nuclear watchers, those who think the U.S. president risks confusing his good relationship with Kim Jong-un with actual evidence the dictator is working towards denuclearization, because it doesn't look like that's happening. In fact, North Korea may be escalating.
We have no indication from satellite imagery that they are doing anything but symbolic disassembling of their nuclear capabilities.
So when you say symbolically, they're getting rid of stuff they don't need anymore.
Correct.
For 35 years, intelligence analyst Joseph Bermudez has assessed satellite imagery of North Korea. He says he found 13 undeclared North Korean missile bases, including this one deep in a mountain valley.
We see people and vehicles moving in and out. We do not see the ballistic missiles themselves because North Korea knows when our satellites are overhead.
Other images show that production of fuel for nuclear weapons continued last year. These are estimates because North Korea refuses to itemize what it has. To get a list would be a huge win at the summit.
We have a special feeling, and I think it's going to lead to something very good, and maybe not. I think ultimately it will, but maybe not.
The U.S. president may have other measures of success if North Korea promises to do away with its long-range capabilities in exchange for maybe pulling some U.S. troops from the region. Trump might return home declaring victory, leaving U.S. allies, those neighbors of North Korea, more exposed and still in real danger 2 summits later. That's important to know. Kim Jong-un does not hold all the cards here. The intelligence analyst you just heard from told us satellite imagery of North Korea's ports show that they're full of ships not going anywhere because of the effect of the sanctions. North Korea wants those sanctions lifted, so let's just see how hard it has to work to make that happen.
Turning back to this country now, and a disturbing display of racism at a hockey rink. This is from Saturday at a semi-pro hockey game in Saint-Jérôme near Montreal. Fans yelling racist slurs at Jonathan Diaby, who is black, one even leaning over the side of the penalty box to taunt him. And it didn't stop there. Fans turned on Diaby's father and girlfriend, who were in the stands, insulting and threatening them as well. Our Alison Northcott now with the story behind the video and the outrage it sparked.
I had to put my jersey over my face because I had teardrops, you know?
Jonathan Diaby says he's faced racism before, but nothing like this.
They started yelling racist stuff at my parents and my sister and all that, and myself. Good old Negro and all that, the baboons, like a bunch of stuff that was said.
The insults, he says, came from a handful of spectators and were so bad he and his family left the arena before the game was over.
Well, my dad was told to go back home, that he had no business in his country and all the places and stuff like that. You know, people were like touching his hair, they were making fun of him. My sister was scared, my girlfriend was scared.
He says referees and security guards did nothing to protect them. Diaby's league, the Ligue Nord-Américaine de Hockey, is notorious for rough play and rowdy crowds. But Diaby's coach says even by that standard, this goes too far.
In 2019, it's something that, you know, we shouldn't see anymore, and it's, I think it's disgusting.
The head of the league apologized to Diaby in this video, telling fans that racist, sexist, or homophobic comments are unacceptable. An owner of the opposing team says security guards did act, but didn't kick anyone out because no one threw any punches. Now, Robert Chevrier says the team is trying to identify the fans in question to ban them from future games. Former NHL player Georges Larac says there should be a rule across the league requiring teams to kick fans out who engage in this kind of behavior.
This is worst thing that I've ever seen. When I started to play hockey, and I've lived some racism when I played hockey, it was never to that level.
This is not hockey, you know, like that's far beyond like what should be happening on a regular Saturday night. You know, nobody should feel threatened to go watch his son play a hockey game.
Diaby says it's also up to players to tell their fans that hate is not okay in the stands or anywhere else. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Now to some other stories we're following tonight. The case against the man at the center of a popular Netflix documentary, Making a Murderer, could get a retrial. In 2007, Steve Avery was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of photographer Teresa Halbach. Today, he was granted a motion to appeal. Avery's lawyer claims that he was framed and some of the evidence was mishandled by authorities. Former Guantanamo Bay prisoner Omar Khadr was back in court today. Khadr is asking an Edmonton judge to declare an end to his 8-year sentence for war crimes, even though he served less than half of that. The sentence was imposed back in 2010 by a military commission in the United States and would have ended in October. But the clock stopped in 2015 when a judge freed Khadr on bail pending an appeal.
The appeal in the U.S. appears to have no end in sight. So we want Mr. Khadr's sentence to start ticking so that it will eventually end.
Khadr was born in Toronto, and the Crown says any reduction in his sentence would go against the international treaty under which he was transferred to Canada. The judge will hand down a decision next month.
And lots ahead tonight, including a new company that guarantees to sell your home, but at what cost?
And later, a sexual assault survivor asks why anyone would report being attacked.
And 9 years after the earthquake, Paul Hunter returns to Haiti.
It was a literal disaster zone after the quake, just wreckage everywhere. The rubble has been cleared up here, but the misery remains.
Did you know when you cross the border into the US or back into Canada, border agents on both sides of the border can search your phone, your laptop, or any other electronic device you might have? Well, they can. And you're probably carrying around more data than you might think. Here's what border agents can search on your phone, and more. Like your suitcase or your purse, border agents think of your devices as goods, which they have the authority to search. That includes your contacts, your apps, your recent emails, your location history, your photos, even your special selfies. If it's stored on your device, it's fair game. And if you're not satisfied just flipping through your phone, they can even make copies of your data to look at later. And what about your social media or data you store in the cloud? Canadian border agents can only look at what's on your device, but on the US side, border agents can look at your Twitter, your Tinder, your Facebook, your Dropbox too. So what can you do if you don't want border agents searching through your stuff? Don't take it in the first place. I know, it's easier said than done. You could back up your sensitive files, delete them, and then restore them when you get home. You could also scrub your device or buy a new one just for traveling. Doctors and lawyers and business execs have lots of reasons to keep sensitive data private, and you might too. You might just be asserting your right to privacy, but a word of caution. A lawyer I spoke with said that if you cross the border with a scrubbed or brand new device, it might make you look suspicious. And besides, it's not practical for everyone. You might have years of photos on your phone or client information you need access to abroad. So what can you do? For starters, encrypt your device, give it a strong password, and turn it off before going through customs. Encrypted devices are most protected when they're powered down. If you use your fingerprint to unlock your phone, it will still need your password when you turn it back on. US and Canadian border guards can't compel you to hand over your password, and if they ask, you can just say no. But there might be consequences. They can detain you, they can seize your devices, and if it's not your home country, they might not even let you in. So before your next trip, you might want to think about how much you're willing to share when you cross the border. If you want to know more, check out our sources and tell us your border stories in the comments.
After years on the rise, the number of home sales in Canada is projected to hit a 9-year low in 2019. Markets like Calgary are being hit particularly hard. The struggling energy sector, coupled with rising interest rates, means more homes are sitting on the market. That can be tough on sellers who may have to show their homes for longer and haggle more over the price and the closing date. So a Canadian tech startup is offering to speed up and streamline the entire process. Sounds good, but as Aaron Collins shows us, the convenience comes with a cost.
At first glance, this looks like just another average Canadian home up for sale. But look closer and you just might see the first stage of a real estate revolution.
You keep such a clean kitchen.
Thank
it's
you.
Amazing.
I do a great job, don't I?
This is not your stuff.
Marie Poulin sold her Calgary home last week, but instead of using a real estate agent, she used Properly, a company that buys homes directly from sellers and then flips them.
I don't have to stage, I didn't have to clean before every open house.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go through the emotional up and down.
Right.
For all that convenience, Properly charges a percentage of the sale price for their service. In Poulin's case, about $25,000 of the $375,000 purchase price, nearly twice as much as a traditional real estate agent. But for that, you get a fixed closing date and a guaranteed sale.
Going with the traditional realtor route, we had no way of knowing how long our home will be on the market.
The need to sell quickly can be a big draw. It's one reason Properly, the first company of its kind in Canada, chose to launch exclusively in Calgary this summer.
The Calgary market today is one in which very few homes that are listed sell, only about 1 in 4 after 2 months have sold, and it takes a very long time to sell if it does sell.
A Properly CEO describes the startup as a tech company that uses a complicated algorithm to determine the fair market value of a home.
So our data model looks at hundreds of data points and factors things like proximity to local schools and hospitals to the level of traffic on the street, which allows us to ensure that we're giving homeowners the most accurate offer possible.
Properly's fee can be as high as 11% off that sale price. For that, the company takes on the risk and cost of selling the property, certainty that comes with a price.
Making the wrong decisions on a real estate transaction can haunt you for 10 or 15 years.
The worry is that some homeowners desperate to sell could rush into trading a piece of their home's value for a quick sale.
It reminded me a little bit of the salary loan, the payday loan business that kind of works and is very profitable around the margins of the economy.
It's a bargain that made sense for Marie Poulin. A similar house across the street and listed in November is still for sale, while Poulin's deal is done.
So when you walk out of here today, you're never coming back?
No, never coming back. Thank you for the memories. It's been great.
A homeowner willing to pay to just walk away. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Companies like Properly are known as iBuyers or institutional buyers, and the concept has taken off south of the border. Two companies, Open Door and OfferPad, both say they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars in funding and are expanding across the United States. Online brokerage firms like Redfin and Zillow have followed suit and launched their own iBuying operations, and even traditional firms like Coldwell Banker are testing the idea.
Ahead tonight, a train full of passengers stuck on board for nearly 2 days.
First, though, a sexual assault survivor fights to be heard, but has a warning for anyone coming forward after an attack.
They kept asking me about what I was wearing and stuff, and I just remember yelling back at them I should have been able to walk into the club naked and not have someone touch me.
June of last year, 90 pressmen go on strike. They're the people who print the paper. The other workers are laid off, and they collect unemployment insurance. While they're laid off, their contracts expire too, and they form a common front with the pressmen. Here, management made its first and biggest mistake. It took a tough bargaining position on feather bedding, hoping to cut down on the number of pressmen. All later mistakes simply compounded this mistake. It was based on the illusion the Star could withstand a long strike. Art Wood became publisher later. During the strike, he was managing editor and a member of the bargaining team.
When the strike first began, there was a feeling, I think, that if we could get better concessions and better press manning operations in our press room in this newspaper, that it eventually would help the industry as a whole, that we could be the breakthrough, and it may reflect on the kind of press manning clause that will be granted elsewhere.
I'm not sure whether they were out to bust the unions or not. I know they were out to play very hard in negotiation and dig their feet in.
The Star was fighting against demands already conceded by La Presse, and in fact, it was trying to take back rights already won by the pressmen in previous contracts. The pressmen refused absolutely to give back what they already had. Management wouldn't move, and for almost 3 months, there were no negotiations. But the pressmen were working elsewhere. They weren't suffering from the strike, so they couldn't be beaten. In September, management finally backed down, and the talks went forward. But in such a hostile atmosphere, they took much longer than necessary.
Do you think if the company had handled the negotiations differently, you could have saved a couple of months or half of that strike?
I think the company should have moved a little bit earlier than it did from some of the hardline positions it had taken. And I think we could have saved some time. Yes, we could have.
Is this the man responsible for the long strike? He's William Goodson, then publisher of the paper. FP Publications, the chain that owned the Star, says he was given complete freedom in the negotiations. Goodson has said his decisions were approved from above. This is an old interview with Goodson. He was not available this week for an interview. On February 6th, the last contract was approved. The strike had taken 8 months, and the reporters were eager to get back.
Can you go back to work as one big family now? Oh, I think so. I think we'll be anxious to get back there and clobber the Gazette.
On February 12th, the presses rolled again, and management was confident too. As it turned out, overconfident.
We're going to go out and regain our circulation, advertising at our editorial position in the city. In other words, we will become the #1 English language newspaper again.
The second mistake was made immediately. Advertising rates were kept at pre-strike levels, always much higher than the Gazettes. Except now, the Star didn't have the circulation to justify the rates.
Well, I think obviously it's turned out that it was a mistake. It's turned out that it turned off some of our advertisers who felt that they were paying for something they weren't getting. They're paying the cost per thousand, which is on which an advertising advantage rate is based, was obviously too high for what we were able to deliver for them.
It appears the Star felt that all it had to do was open its doors and the advertisers would come back. They didn't, and in the end it was the lack of advertisers that killed the paper. The same overconfidence led to the next mistake, a bad advertising campaign. A campaign that reflected the paper's high opinion of itself.
You can switch back now. The Montreal Star. Best news in months.
Meanwhile, the Gazette was running a clever series of ads that seemed to have the whole city singing,
We're following some breaking news tonight from Indonesia. At least one person has been killed and dozens are feared buried in a landslide at an illegal gold mine. This is on the island of Sulawesi. The country's disaster agency says 13 people have been rescued so far. The search is now on for survivors.
Well, we are not going to give any president, Democratic or Republican, a blank check to shred the Constitution of the United States.
Today, Congress pushed back against Donald Trump's emergency declaration, which would unlock money for the border wall. 13 Republicans sided with the Democrats in the House to pass a resolution overturning the president's declaration. The big test, though, will be the vote in the Senate, where Republicans have the majority.
You're a maggot, pal! A maggot! May you rot in hell!
That is Cardinal George Pell arriving at court in Australia, surrounded by angry crowds, media, and police protection. The former advisor to the Pope is facing a pre-sentencing hearing that's underway right now. This is after he was found guilty on 5 counts of child sex offenses. He is the world's most senior Catholic clergyman to be convicted of crimes of this nature. Pell is set to spend tonight in jail after his bail application was withdrawn.
3 years ago, Sam Fazio was a teen girl at a dance. Then the unthinkable happened. She was brutally sexually attacked. Her physical injuries were so horrific, they took weeks to recover from. Then, she says, came the next round. The police interviews, the trial, and a sentence for her attacker that outraged her, got her so angry, she took the rare step of getting a publication ban lifted so she could tell her story publicly. She spoke to Joanna Remiliotis about the attack and why, as the Me Too movement helps her find a voice, a real sense of justice still eludes her. And a warning, her story is violent and graphic.
Welcome to the 2019 Women's March. When I say resist, you say persist. Resist! Resist! Resist!
I wasn't allowed to talk about anything. I was literally just being silenced by the court system and by police and lawyers and everyone.
Persist!
She's a young woman refusing to be silent. A survivor demanding to be seen.
Persist!
In this era of Me Too, Sam Fazio is an emerging warrior, even when she feels nothing like it.
It's been almost 3 years since it happened, and it still affects me pretty much every day. I've had crazy panic attacks just from being in the dark, and it's just an overload of feeling like I'm back there even though I'm not.
Sam was 17 when she was sexually assaulted at a student dance at a Vancouver bar. A 16-year-old boy she knew cornered her in a bathroom stall. Her memory of what happened next is graphic and disturbing.
Him pushing me down into a crouching position in the corner of the stall and shoving his penis down my throat, and I just remember crying and pushing with my hands against his legs trying to get him away from me, but he was a lot stronger and I couldn't get away. And then he was raping me and just being so scared, and then I just remember looking down and I saw all my blood everywhere.
Sam was rushed to hospital and into emergency surgery. Her injuries so horrific, doctors told her they believed a weapon was used.
They had to sew back together my vagina because it had incisions. I think it was 6 inches inside of my vagina. There was a really deep cut, and then the outside was split as well. So yeah, so they had to do an emergency surgery because I was losing way too much blood, and they were getting really scared. And they said that I could have died if they didn't do it right then.
It would be weeks before she could walk, let alone take part in a women's march. Now Sam is sharing her story publicly for the first time to openly question why, even now, even in this era of reckoning, anyone would ever want to.
this terrible thing happened to me, but then I just have to keep fighting to prove that it actually happened.
The night of the attack, police came to see Sam in the hospital. She had just come out of surgery.
They kept asking me about what I was wearing and stuff, and I just was so infuriated by that. I just remember yelling back at them I should have been able to walk into the club naked and not have someone touch me.
The questions outraged her then and again in court, when the defense suggested the attack was consensual.
At the hospital, the specialists and everything said they've seen a lot of sexual assaults, and that's never happened before. There's never been an incision inside or outside of someone's vagina after being assaulted. I think it's a pretty clear sign that obviously that could not have been consensual, but the defense's side tried to just say that the rapist's penis was too big.
Despite the arguments, Sam's attacker was convicted, not just for her assault, but for another one too, that came to light during her trial. It was almost over, and Sam says she just wanted to move on, to focus on her new life as an arts major. She turned to meditation to help her heal. But then, just when she thought she was catching her breath, came the sentencing last fall. As a young offender, her attacker got the maximum 3 years, but the judge decided only 2 weeks of that should be spent in custody, the rest under supervision. Part of the reasoning? Sam's attacker had missed out on graduating with his friends and was at low risk to reoffend.
He had 2 charges of sexual assault, and it got significantly worse with the second one. But saying that he was a low risk to reoffend just makes no sense to me. I think it just shows that it's okay to assault people, because the worst that's going to happen is you're just going to have to go sit in a detention center for 2 weeks.
How it shook our entire community to the core.
The apparent disregard for Sam, the perception the offender's rights eclipsed hers, became a flashpoint. Soon after the sentence, nearly 200 protesters showed up at the courthouse. Mitra Kazemi and her sister organized the rally.
We were so angry and disgusted.
They don't even know Sam, but the outcome of her trial, they say, felt like a collective insult.
Showing the judge that this many people are disgusted by your reasoning, and this many people are questioning your authority as a judge.
Mitra and Yalda also started a petition demanding the judge in Sam's trial be stripped of his duties. It's largely symbolic. Judges are appointed for life, but it's gathered more than 70,000 signatures, and Yalda says challenges a justice system to step up to the changing times.
It's really good for the survivor to see that, this many people stand with you, this many people think that you are injustice, this many people want to do something to help you.
You're something to look up to, as much as you didn't really want to be in the first place, but you're doing a good job.
Sam has support from good friends, but it can be so overwhelming to be the face of a cause.
Hey Sam, I heard what happened to you. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. In 9th grade I was raped, so I know what you're sort of feeling.
She's also been flooded with messages, hundreds from other survivors looking to her for guidance.
Some of them saying that they've never told anyone, and that just reading my one post on Facebook or whatever made them go home and tell their mom, or go and tell their best friend. That's just seems insane that just something that happened to me can inspire someone to do something so incredible for themselves. It's that's the part that fuels me, but when I'm reading them, it's I just can't believe that anyone else has to go through this as well, and that makes me sad. Hi.
Hi.
Sam's father, Brian Fazio, says he often feels powerless.
It's a feeling of feeling lost. You're just drowning every day.
He's gone to every rally to support his daughter and to fight for her.
Just seeing what my daughter went through the trial. After the trial, not before the trial, she said she could understand why victims take their own lives. She said she felt victimized the night of the attack. She felt victimized by the judge. It's been hard. It's hard to tell someone the right thing to do is to go through that.
And Sam is still so vulnerable. She found her voice in an era when more survivors are being heard, and yet she often feels more defeated than empowered.
Like, I don't feel like I can confidently tell anyone to go report it to the police because it's been such like a terrible process.
It is difficult to move forward when the past still defines and disappoints you. Sam's attacker is appealing his sentence and his conviction, and Sam says she's left wondering if speaking out is worth the trauma that is still coming with it.
Wow, such a powerful story, Joanna. And, you know, 2 weeks for that crime in custody, I mean, that sparked a lot of outrage, but it's not unheard of.
No, those kinds of sentences are actually quite typical. For people who are young offenders at the time of major crimes, including sexual assault, the vast majority don't serve much time, if any, in custody, because the reasoning is rehabilitation. So most of the time, sentences are served in the community, and they include curfews and counseling. Now, in this case, it's not clear what the offender in this case is obliged to do because the case is under appeal. But to put it into further context, the Crown had pushed for this young man to be tried as an adult because of the severity of the crime. And the judge ruled that would not be the case. But had he been convicted of aggravated sexual assault, which is the conviction that he's facing now, he would be facing a maximum penalty of life in prison.
Okay, Joanna, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
And one other note, that Sam Fazio's attack ended in a conviction at all is rare. That happens only in about 12% of sexual assaults reported to police, and in only about half of those cases does the attacker serve time in custody.
Up next on the National, life after the earthquake. Paul Hunter returns to Haiti 9 years later.
While the city center looks okay, it's not hard to find some of that leftover earthquake rubble.
Independence is, comment on dit en français, une utopie.
It's a utopia?
Yes.
You don't think it's going to happen?
Oh, not my life.
My parents voted yes at the last referendum, and they really talked to me a lot about it. You know, everybody was in front of their TV, and they were watching. They were really eager to know the results, and they were really disappointed. But they didn't stay bitter after this. They continued to, you know, get interested in politics. But you know, it was a deception, really.
I want to have a referendum as soon as possible, but we understand that the population, the people are not ready to this step. So we're going to put this on the side for the first government of PQ, and then we'll prove to the people that we can drive the government.
I think it's sad because for me, the independence should be a transversal theme. Not speaking of that is not a good idea, at my opinion, because people will forget it and lose the interest.
Right now, I'm not really interested in that debate. At my age, with a young family, I'm trying to find a party that is taking care of the hurt and taking care of the kids. If the nationality question was on the table, I won't be interested in the PQ.
I don't know how we could get young people get more interested in politics and in the idea of Quebec being independent. We're trying as young members of a party to find a solution to this, but it's really, really hard. I don't think people are really, now egoistic. They just have different priorities. And maybe these priorities are not focused on, the collectivity, but on the individual, like getting a great job, because it's really hard right now to get a great job.
Imaginez le printemps dans un Québec indépendant.
Pensez-vous que le Parti québécois, c'est le parti d'une seule génération?
I don't talk about this with my friends, but like more with my father, because it's like you have to be interested in politics because it's really important in life. But I'm like, it's not really my thing.
I'm a sovereignist, and I will be always a sovereignist.
It comes from the bottom of your heart that I'm a Québécoise first and then Canadian second. I like my language, I like my culture, I like my people. So it's like I want to be able to represent myself internationally, to take the decision that are best for my people as I see it.
We came from a country that first it was a province, and then Panama was a country, was a province of Colombia, and then we became a country. But it's possible, but we have to work hard.
That might be long, but we have to believe.
It was one of the most devastating disasters to ever hit Haiti. A magnitude 7 earthquake so close to the Earth's surface left the country in ruins. Homes, hotels, hospitals, schools reduced to piles of rubble. Those who weren't killed or injured were left suffering with no food, no water, no medicine. And anger erupted in the streets. It has been building ever since. Despite billions in foreign aid, Haiti is still a country in need of help. Paul Hunter was there 9 years ago in the aftermath of the earthquake, and then again last week to report on violent protests. In tonight's dispatch from Port-au-Prince, he shows us how much work needs to be done and why there's still hope for Haiti.
For those wondering about life in Haiti 9 years after that earthquake, take a walk with Selner Icarus. He lost his left leg that day in 2010, along with everything else that he had. Now, all this time later, he showed us his home. A tiny, canvas-covered space on the street with no water, no power, and not much of anything else. I've been living here ever since January 12th, he says. That's the day of the earthquake in 2010. We asked him, in trying all these years to get his life restarted, how much help has he had from Haiti's government? Government, he says. I live in a little house here by the cathedral. No government has ever done anything for us. Indeed, right across the street from his tent, what was once a magnificent cathedral, the biggest and most important cathedral in Port-au-Prince, wrecked by the quake. Today, its remnants stand as a symbol of the Haiti government's struggle for progress since that terrible day. In a city where such symbols abound. Don't forget, 250,000 people were killed on that day. And then came cholera. Then came Hurricane Matthew in 2016, and throughout all of it, Haiti often seemed incapable of turning well-intentioned aid into action. It's why so many Haitians have lately taken to the streets, angry at word their own government is now alleged to be deeply corrupt and at the root of Haiti's achingly slow recovery. But even the recent demonstrations have given Haiti fresh problems. Not far from that cathedral, the protesters targeted not only businesses and symbols of wealth, but also, in places, fellow Haitians. Check this place. A family home that was never fully repaired after the quake. It was attacked by some of those demonstrators earlier this month. They came here and ransacked everything, he says, and took the little money we had to feed our kids. Even as they showed us around, it's clear they themselves could hardly believe it. This is what they did, she says. Now we're trying to clean it up. The cars outside, by the way, burnt by demonstrators, we were told weren't even yet paid for. Their family caught in the middle, now victims, they say, once again. Things are getting worse and worse and worse, he says. We can't eat, we can't buy food, people are dying of hunger. And so forgive those who might say that when it comes to Haiti, what hope is there? Consider that the country's tourism industry had recently just been starting to rebound, but this hotel, lately flirting with full occupancy, now sits nearly empty. Money that would have come into Haiti isn't.
They were saying for the obvious reasons of the protests, we will be canceling or postponing our trip.
But none of this is meant to say that there's been no progress in Haiti. Notice the new streetlights, for example, solar powered. And yet, while the city center looks okay, it's not hard to find some of that leftover earthquake rubble. Still, many Haitians are doing what they can to affect change. These men are current and former Haitian gang members, drawn into that world amid the spiraling economy after the quake. Now, taking part in a community police program aimed at getting them out of street gangs, which in so many Haitian neighborhoods act as the de facto government. There's a crisis in this country, he says. To be clear, as they work to improve their lives, they are acutely aware of the current allegations the elected government has been part of the problem. If other countries like Canada or America want to help us, he says, they need to manage it themselves. If they want to build a road or a school, don't let the Haitian government manage the money. If they let the Haitian government handle it, he says, the politicians will split the money amongst themselves. Indeed, Haiti remains a forever complicated place. So don't let the music fool you. There may be smiles all round, but in a sense, it's merely a break from the despondency. This is the community of Canaan outside Port-au-Prince, a manufactured place built with the best of intentions as a new home for some of the more than 1 million displaced by the quake. About 30,000 people live here now, on hills which before the quake were barren. Indeed, there's life in Canaan and a semblance of an economy, but then again, this is Haiti. Water and electricity here are scarce, so too optimism. At our age, this man told us, we don't believe anyone will be doing anything for us. And so they live, in the shadow of the earthquake and in the wake of all those protests, with a government countless here now believe is only making life worse, in a country they all thought should be so much better by now. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Port-au-Prince.
Up next on The National. After close to 40 hours in limbo, hundreds of passengers on a train breathe a sigh of relief in our moment.
Not knowing how long we were going to be on there, I would say that was probably the most frustrating part.
I've been on this train for almost 36 hours.
An estimated $700 million of suspected dirty money poured into BC casinos between 2010 and 2017. Bags and bags of suspicious cash flowing through the system, ignored warnings of horrendous money laundering. How was this allowed to happen? Our investigation began in 2004. A lawsuit between BC's Great Canadian Casinos and a Texas company reveals allegations of loan sharking in BC casinos.
We've been advised from our bosses that it's not really our business to stick our nose in the business of the loan sharks, that we're there to just watch the games.
CBC initiates a Freedom of Information request for BC gaming documents. They took 4 years to obtain. The documents reveal a troubling pattern of suspicious transactions. The suspicion is that gangsters are using the casinos to launder the proceeds of crime. CBC launches an undercover investigation.
Why don't you guys count the cash?
And successfully uses money laundering techniques to launder $24,000.
How is it that the media, in their own investigation over 4 years, were able to expose this when successive ministers knew nothing about it?
A man walks into a casino with $1.2 million in chips. He asks for and receives a letter saying the money is casino winnings. 2 days earlier, at a different casino, a man had brought in $460,000 in 20s. Casino staff don't flag the transactions as suspicious. In the months that follow, massive amounts of suspicious transactions occur.
The casino industry in general was targeted during that time period for what may well be some very sophisticated money laundering activities by organized crime.
How can you be certain that they're not laundering drug money?
Well, you'll never know 100% all the time. There's certainly the checks and balances in place, and I'm satisfied that we're doing as good a job as anybody else.
The province promises a crackdown. Dollar figures for suspicious transactions continue to rise dramatically.
They haven't done, I think, any meaningful changes since that time, and that shows by the FOI results that CBC has obtained.
Unfortunately, for many years, Lower Mainland casinos unwittingly served as laundromats for the proceeds of organized crime.
An independent report states the failure of BCLC and the BC Liberal government to curb the problem. The report calls for 48 recommendations to fix the situation. Its author estimates more than $100 million was laundered. Secret reports are obtained by CBC suggesting that the amount laundered was much higher.
Well, imagine being stranded on a train for close to 40 hours. 40. Sounds like something right out of a movie or perhaps a nightmare, but for nearly 200 passengers, it happened. They were on board a train traveling from Seattle to Los Angeles until it hit a fallen tree on the tracks. That plus a pretty nasty winter storm made for a bad combination. But today, some good news. The train was back up and moving, and that is our moment.
Been on the train 40 hours, 40 plus, and we're just kind of excited to finally get off.
I just wanted to come outside and breathe air and put my feet on the ground.
Not knowing how long we were going to be on there, I would say that was probably the most frustrating part.
I've been on this train for almost 36 hours.
We hit a tree and it did damage to the second car. We lost a part of the engine.
We are moving, and that looks totally awesome.
The train crew was amazing. They were so professional and so kind, and we really wanted for nothing except for maybe someplace comfortable to lie down.
After halfway through, you started seeing the social walls just coming down. People were sharing stories, and I'm going to miss it. I mean, I think we all ought to meet up there a year from now.
It was really amazing adventure. Something to talk about at Thanksgiving dinner for your family, right?
Okay, I have a lot to say about this. These people, firstly, are very nice. Secondly, this needs to be a movie of the week, and I'm sure it's already underway. And thirdly, apparently they're so nice. They said that they were better off than the people in the nearby town because at least they had electricity and heat.
Yeah, I could think of worse places to be than a train with heat and power. Nice to see that it didn't get all Lord of the Flies. But hey, maybe they'll meet up in a year, right?
Are you guys train people? Like, do you love being on the train?
Like the train. Yeah.
Yeah, I sense that. You see, like there's the romance of the train. I know people, in fact, some people we work with in Toronto who have gone from Toronto to Vancouver on the train. So if you are a train person, if you love being on a train, this would have been fantastic.
But
me, not so much.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That is the National, February 26th. Good night.
Good night.